1973. If you look at Margaret Sloaner, she was a black lesbian. So she didn't like men. So all of these movements were set up by lesbians or people or white supremacists and things of that nature.
The guest tonight is Margaret Sloan. In recent years, Margaret has devoted herself to the women's liberation movement. She teamed with Gloria Steinem and lectured on all aspects of sexism and racism. Her articles on black feminism have appeared in the Chicago Tribune, the New York Times, and Ms. Magazine, where she was one of the editorial staff and now a contributing writer. Most recently, she was one of the founders and first chairwomen of the NBFO, the National Black Feminist Organization. Margaret is currently writing a book on black feminism. Margaret, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here.
I guess I can't be in your book, huh?
That sounds too easy, but
which do you think of first? Do you think of yourself as black or female first?
I don't think of myself as black or female. I mean, I don't look at life. I don't think the oppressor says, well, from Monday to Wednesday we're gonna, discriminate against her because she's female, and the rest of the week we're gonna discriminate against her because she's black. I am a black and female person who lives in a country that is sexist and racist, and so for me, it would be very difficult and impossible to separate my oppressions out that way. I am perceived as a black woman, and that's how I live my life, and those are the impressions I experience, and those are the things that I fight.
If you look up if you look up Barbara Gettings or Harry Hay, they are looked at as the face of the LGBTQIA movement in America that came about in the late 1960s. This came about after Stonewall.
I'm sitting here with two very special people who helped to found the gay liberation movement, and together they've put in over a half a century of work in the movement, which, as we just found out from John D'Amelio, is a lot older than most people think. Barbara Giddings is the coordinator of the Gay Task Force for the American Library Association, and she's been active in the gay movement for 25 years. 33 years ago, Harry Hay and a few other people got together and began to form the nucleus of an organization which would eventually become the Mattachine Society, probably the oldest gay activist organization in America in the post-war years. And I want to start out first by...
They literally admitted to latching on to the civil rights movement and learning how to fight for rights from the civil rights movement.
Got a strong, coherent philosophy until the beginning of the 1960s, when, as John D'Amelio has pointed out, there was a distinct change in the temper and tempo of our own movement, sparked in large measure by the advances of the black civil rights movement. Right. And suddenly we began to see that the problem of homosexuality, which is what we were organized around, was not our problem, but society's problem. That gay is good, in parallel with black is beautiful, that we had to not politely ask for a few crumbs of privilege from the table, but go out and demand rights in the courts and in other forums where we could get them. And the whole atmosphere changed, and I began to develop a very coherent, strong, positive feeling.
And this came after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. So once they had all of our leaders out of the way, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., etc., then that Martin Luther King died in 1968. Stonewall was in June 28th of 1969. And they had to attach a black person to Stonewall, Marsha P. Johnson, who wasn't even, they call him a transgender, but he was just a gay black man. And they had to attach him, he was a gay black man who dressed in drag. And they had to attach him to the Stonewall movement to make it, get more attention, because he was a black man. Yeah. So they used him. He said in an interview himself, he wasn't even at Stonewall.
I winded up being at Stonewall that night. I was having a party uptown, and we were all out there. And Miss Sylvia and Rivera and them were over in the park having a cocktail. I was uptown, and I didn't get downtown until about 2 o'clock, because when I got downtown, the place was already on fire, and it was a raid already. The riots had already started, and they said the police went in there and set the place on fire. They said the police set it on fire because they originally wanted the Stonewall to close, so they had several raids. We just were saying no more police brutality, and we had enough of police harassment in the village and other places. Oh, there was a lot of little chants we used to do in those days.
He said that out his own mouth. So, and then they lie about Stonewall, and they lie about the beginning of that movement, because they say Stonewall was this gay nightclub where they harassed and stuff like that. What they don't tell you about is how all of those nightclubs were owned by the Italian mafia. They don't tell you about, the Stonewall was owned by the Italian mafia, the Gambino crime family. There was another gay nightclub called Cookies. It was Cookies or Kookies, Kookys. That was owned by the Italian mafia. They had another nightclub called the 10th of Always. That was owned by the Italian mafia. This is why they were, being raided and stuff like that. They were owned by the mafia. It was prostitution. It was watered down alcohol. All of that stuff was a whole bunch of illegal activity. It wasn't because of them being gay nightclubs and stuff like that. They don't tell you these things. So all of this stuff is now used today to manipulate, the black community and our children and the youth and stuff like that. And it's a distraction. They literally destroyed our movement to bring in the LGBTQIA, and black people are now trying to be intersectionalists and intersectionality, which makes no sense. From the standpoint of a martial artist, if I had to fight two people, I would want to fight them in a row. I wouldn't want to fight them simultaneously. So how does it make sense to say, oh, I'm black and I'm gay, I want to fight for black and gay at the same time? You can't do that. That doesn't make sense. You fight for one has to be a priority.